one of the largest pit bulls in the world, a tricky pig, and a Maine Coon who's conquered New York City with its size and charm. In this episode, you'll see the largest animals born every 1,000 years. Let's go! Mini pig. Two Canadians led ordinary, simple lives. They loved pets, so they took care of several beauties at once. Two cats, a tortoise, and a fish were under their care. One of their friends suggested that they take in another animal, a miniature pig, which would be about as tiny as all their other pets. The guys agreed without thinking twice, but they had no idea that this miniature pig would grow to be the size of a full-fledged guard dog. At the time of taking this footage, the pig weighed about 660 pounds. A large number of people watched its life and wondered how this was even possible. After all, its owners did absolutely nothing to make it grow so large. The mini pig got a lot of fans because one of the guys created an account in a social network for it. There were also a lot of people who wanted to buy this animal, but for the family members, the pig had already become their relative, so there could be no question of any amount of money. It was personal. What do you think could have affected such a crazy growth of the animal? After all, even the vets who examined it didn't predict such records. I don't know about you, but I personally have a fear of large dogs. Big, toothy, aggressive-looking ones. If you want to know, pit bulls are at the top of the list. And I'm talking about the regular breed. Now imagine my face if I encountered this big creature. Well, ordinary adult males of this breed weigh up to 44 to 66 pounds. This animal is fattened up to 176 pounds. You'd think this is some kind of mutant, but no. We see the most ordinary dog who, by the way, continues to grow. The dog was expectedly named Hulk because just the sight of him makes the blood run cold in everyone's veins. But despite this, the owner of the pit bull trusts him with his little son. The dog loves to play with children and even rides them on his back, all because of the fact that Hulk was trained from puppyhood and grew up to be a full-fledged guard dog. According to the owner, he's so loyal that he'll protect the family at the cost of his own life. They thank him for it in full. Every day they give him 4.5 pounds of ground beef. In general, he eats better than many people. However, in this case, the size is no longer a benefit, and the owners are rather worried about the dog. According to the vets, because of such large size, the dog may at some point become difficult to breathe or even perform basic exercises. And since pit bulls can't live without movement, this can end very badly. Abnormal crocodile. The thing that animals can live longer in captivity than if they were not tamed is a fact long known to scientists, but people are still amazed by some individuals. One of them is the crocodile named Cassius. The age of the reptile is more than 110 years, his length is 18 feet, and he weighs about a ton. In 2011, Cassius the crocodile was recognized by the Guinness Book of Records as the world's largest crocodile in captivity. Besides, today he's considered one of the oldest crocodiles in the world. This giant was caught back in 1984. Lately, he's been living in an Australian park. What else makes Cassius so extraordinary is that he continues to grow despite his age. That's just phenomenal. Lizzie. That's the name of this beautiful Great Dane you're seeing right now. The black and white beauty was special from the moment she was born. According to her owner, when Lizzie first came into the world, she had a strange, powerful energy. After her first vet check, the doctor said Lizzie would be a big girl, but they must have understated it a bit, or used the wrong word. After all, Lizzie has grown up to be a giant dog. She's considered one of the tallest female dogs in the world right now. Her owner says she was abnormally tall already at the age of 2. The giant dog is so big that she has to eat food from a bowl that stands on a special chair. The good news is that Lizzie is not very active. You know how it usually happens. Dogs run all over the apartment and accidentally can break or push something. And with Lizzie's size, anything can be knocked over and broken. Samson. A man named Jonathan led an ordinary life. But one day, something happened. His older brother asked him to babysit a little cat that had just recently been born from a cat he already had. Of course, Jonathan agreed, but he had no idea that at that moment something mysterious would forever link the cat to his life. The white and brown handsome male, named Samson, is about 1.5 times larger than the average Maine Coon. His veterinarian honestly admits he's never seen a cat this big. He's definitely the biggest cat in New York City. Yes, as you understand, the kitty stayed at Jonathan's place, and after a year he realized that it was not a simple four-legged one, but one of the largest cats in the world. The owner of the pet quickly adapted to the situation and even created separate accounts and social networks for Samson. Many people want to watch the life of the cat, who's more than 3 feet long, weighing about 33 pounds. At the same time, the cat is clearly not going to stop at the achieved records. In an effort to gain a few extra pounds, he eats 6 cans of canned cat food every day and eats some dry food as a snack. Are you sure it's a rabbit? That's the question I asked myself as soon as I saw this video on the internet. It shows a man holding a giant rabbit that is clearly not a dog, pig, or goat. It's actually a rabbit. A rabbit of the Flemish giant rabbit breed, considered one of the largest in the world fauna. Flemish giant rabbits are distinguished by their large size and live weight. Adult rabbits weigh 15 pounds, some individuals weigh 22 to 26 pounds, and the record-breaking weight is 29 pounds. Their body length can reach 27.5 inches. Also, these rabbits are characterized by a deep and wide back. However, such size does not appear out of anywhere. Even if you have a rabbit of this breed, you should know that it needs special attention and care to keep it warm and cozy. In addition, large size requires more space, so most likely the classic rabbit houses won't do. You have to customize them. People have had problems with these rabbits for a long time. After all, it's believed that they appeared 3 to 4 centuries ago thanks to the crossbreeding between local rabbits and Patagonian rabbits. Both breeds have been extinct for a long time, so we'll not be able to check the truthfulness of the legends, but we can check the advantages of these giants. From each of these fluffy animals, one can get a large and luxurious skin, as well as 12 pounds of easily digestible meat. Turns out kangaroos can be this big. Hit the like button if you thought this animal was fake too. Seriously, I thought it was just some monument erected in honor of Australia's main animal. But this isn't the case. The creature moved, and for a moment, I felt uncomfortable. Not about my safety, of course, but about the safety of the girl behind the camera. Judging by the fact that there was no comment from her, the kangaroo didn't attack her, it just ran past about its business. Speaking of kangaroos, we all know that these creatures are carried in their mother's pouch. But did you know that when they're born, they're only a couple of centimeters long? They reach more or less noticeable size only after the first few months, after which they already become similar to their parents. Bully beaver. To be honest, I'm a little shocked by the following situation. A guy was walking his dog near some lake when suddenly, out of nowhere, a beaver appeared, jumped on the dog, and then disappeared into the water. And it'd be alright if the beaver was of classic size, but this one was obviously some kind of mutant or overgrown. Probably, as it was growing up, something changed in its head which made it more aggressive and persistent. In all likelihood, as the experts from the comments explained, the beaver was defending its territory, on which the guy and his dog walked without asking. In this case, I can understand the beaver. If I were the human, after this attack, I'd remain vigilant for at least another 20 minutes because that's how long beavers can stay underwater and watch the surroundings. Who knows, maybe the animal's mission on this attack wasn't over yet, and it was planning to go to a second round. By the way, beavers are helped by their very large lungs and liver to stay underwater for so long. In this individual, they're probably even larger than usual. Perhaps this giant can swim underwater for up to half an hour. And now let's talk about other giants that can be found in the most unexpected places. Next, you'll see some frightening giant snake moments caught on camera. Dog rescue. The story that happened to the protagonist of this video was completely accidental. The friends were riding their bikes and talking about their business when suddenly, out of the corner of their eye, they noticed something moving in the bushes. After a closer look, they realized it was not just a lurking animal, but a battle between a snake and a dog. Actually, one can hardly call it a battle because there was a complete domination by the creeping creature. Since a dog is a man's best friend, the guys stopped and helped the poor creature. They worked on the following principle. One filmed everything for the story and held the tail of the anaconda, while the others tried to untie the snake and free the dog from its fetters. You know, judging by the guys' efforts, loosening the grip was insanely difficult. Not only was the snake huge, but was also naturally very tenacious in its grip on its target. Fortunately, the operation was successful and the doggy was free. Another battle against the dog. Remember the first video of the cyclist helping a dog in trouble? Well, I don't know about you, but I got the distinct idea that it was almost impossible for the animal to get out of a snake's grip. If it was so hard for humans, how hard would it be for one little dog that was trapped? And yet, we're about to see it. This video was taken in eastern Sri Lanka. Tourists were walking around the island and happened to see a dog in trouble. Unfortunately, none of the people had any snake fighting skills, which made them afraid to attack it and intervene in any way. They could only watch and hope that a miracle would happen. At one point, it sort of happened. The dog got out, but it was too early to rejoice. The snake quickly followed it and gripped it again. This time it was much more dangerous since it started to strangle the dog. The man's best friend barked, twisted, tried to distract the snake, and at the same time inflict some damage on it. And you know what? It succeeded. At one point, the snake itself didn't realize how the dog deftly and quickly slipped out of its grip. Hit the like button for the awesome doggy escape. Why are you bothering me? That's what this snake must have thought to itself when the man was trying to pester it. The man needed something. He was definitely interested in something. Well, he couldn't just take a stick and start poking the snake with it, right? It wasn't mockery either. The pokes were accurate. He was not trying to hurt the reptile. In any case, it was impossible to know the real reason for this behavior without drastic measures. For example, without a high-speed lunge toward the man. Maybe during it he'll tell me why he's been bothering me, the snake thought, and gave the guy with the stick a good scare. I think that after such an incident, he would not bother the snake anymore. In the following video, the snake charmers encountered a new challenge in the form of a huge cobra that absolutely refused to make any compromises. The snake was crawling in a public park and perfectly blended in with the leaves, which made the danger big. Witnesses immediately called in snake catchers, who immediately went to work. Their task was to place the snake in this box here. To do this, they left a small hole there in which the creeping creature had to want to climb personally. However, so far it's in no hurry to do so. It frightens the main catcher with the box, his assistant, and the cameraman. Fortunately, it didn't take long and the creeping creature was caught. I can't imagine how it can be caught by an unprepared person or just one person. The risk of being bitten was just prohibitive. What I would also call prohibitive is the tension in the following video. The paradox is that there's no movement, everything is rather static. The python has caught the king cobra in its strangling vice and clearly has no intention of letting it go. Nevertheless, for some reason, until the very end, it seemed to me that the second snake was about to start moving, that its second wind would kick in and it'd fight back. But unfortunately, or fortunately, this didn't happen. Python came out of the fight as the undisputed winner. Backstory. I think I found the backstory of the battle between those two snakes. At least it looks very realistic and logical. In this clip, you can see the cobra crawling up to the python and plotting something. The interesting thing is that the python sees it but does nothing. It just doesn't give a damn about any tricks of its creeping relative. Literally 1 minute passes and the cobra lunges. It grabs the python's torso with its tenacious teeth, but for some reason, it immediately lets the opponent go. Either the skin turned out to be too thick, or the size didn't fit the cobra, or it just quickly changed its mind. It's likely that because of such ridiculous tricks, the python will get angry and then strangle the annoying snake. By the way, do you know snakes well? For example, do you know which snakes are the largest on the planet? Or what are they interesting for? And what are they capable of? If not, then keep watching to learn more and just look at cool, fascinating, and scary snake footage. Anaconda. Tell me, what episode about giant snakes can go without the anaconda? That's just impossible. There's a lot of different information about these snakes. Some say that they reach 20 feet in length, others claim to have seen larger individuals. For example, the length of the largest anacondas ever described in the literature is 59 and 79 feet. But no one has been able to confirm this, which means it could be fake. In any case, it's rather silly to argue with the fact that the anaconda is both the king and the monster of the snake world. This snake is so big that it has long preferred not to move on land. It's much easier for it to swim in the water and not make an effort while moving its body. Evolution's a good thing. It's helped the anaconda in this move under the water, giving it the proper eyes and nostrils at the top of its head so it can breathe and see while the rest of its body is underwater. This snake lives in the jungles of South America, being one of the creepiest creatures there. I think it's silly to speak about the danger for small or medium-sized creatures if we consider the fact that even jaguars are afraid of the anaconda. By the way, the anaconda went even further and started beating its own congeners so that others would be afraid of it. I'm talking about large females, which are happy to eat small snakes. Reticulated python. And this snake is the longest of the entire world's fauna. The largest individual in the wild can grow at least 20 to 23 feet in length and weigh about 220 pounds, sometimes even more. The reticulated python is native to Southeast Asia. It's a large and beautiful snake. The incredible striking net-like pattern on its skin is called reticulated, hence the name. Unfortunately, this beautiful skin is the cause of their misfortune, since it costs a lot of money in the commercial trade and on the black market. Despite this, it's impossible to call reticulated pythons an endangered species. Most likely, people are simply afraid to get close to such an enormous creature. Even the smell of money doesn't motivate them to risk their own health. Burmese python. Because of its beautiful pattern and relatively easy disposition, our next guest is the choice for people wishing to have a large snake as a pet. The only nuance to consider in this case is the size of the growing creeping creature. It can exceed 13 feet in length, and this will turn into a real phobia for some, so keep this in mind. What else is important to know about these pythons is that as babies, they're crazy about crawling up trees. However, childhood amusements and dreams take a backseat when the Burmese python begins to grow by leaps and bounds. Over time, the snake will need water, in which it'll feel like a fish. Representatives of this species are able to hold their breath for as much as 20 to 30 minutes. Fall asleep in a tent and wake up inside a giant anaconda. Would you like to experience something like that? Animal behavior, as well as what they eat, are sometimes really hard to predict. An alligator inside a python. I think that when people deal with a snake that tried to attack them or their territory, it's quite normal to expect that one or another inhabitant of the nearest places will be inside the snake. For example, some kind of bird, maybe a small rodent, well, or another snake, if we're talking about a king cobra. So the authors of the following story engaged in a battle with a python from which they emerged victorious without difficulty. Why was the battle so easy? What was wrong with that snake? It barely moved, the men said, and they couldn't solve the mystery. That was until they decided to dissect the snake. Turned out that in some fantastic way, it had been carrying a crocodile all this time, a real one, and not a tiny one at all. And now I'll tell you about a case that happened to Sean Brighton, a resident of the United States. This man was in love with wild nature. He could often be alone with himself and spend the night in tents or makeshift cabins. He was really surprised when one day he woke up outside his tent. He noticed that he was covered with a strange slime and that he had no shoes on. There were strange cuts on his arms as if from bites. After looking around a bit and thinking about it, he realized that some giant from the snake world had tried to attack him last night. Not only had it attacked, it had even swallowed Sean. And you ask the logical question, how in that case did he manage to get out? It's unreal. According to the man, only one of the predators could have helped him out. When big cats, for example, lions or tigers, encounter a snake, the creeping creature immediately understands the danger and spits out its prey and prepares to go away or take one last fight for its own life. Probably something similar happened in this story. Do you think it's impossible in reality and man made it up? Share your thoughts in the comments. Golfer fan. That's what I would call the snake from the following video, because it ate as many as 2 balls necessary for this wonderful game. Either the snake was playing on the golf course, or it ate balls at someone's house. In any case, the fact remains. Probably the snake mistook them for somebody's eggs and decided to feast on easy prey. Only these eggs turned out to be much more durable and were not going to be digested in its stomach at all. That's when the snake felt bad. Fortunately for it, there was a kind and skillful person nearby who promptly, and most importantly, accurately extracted all the balls from the snake. I think that if the creeping creature had been able to talk, it would have definitely told its rescuer to thank you. The authors of the next video were exploring the wild nature, looking for something to look at. Their pleas were heard and they came across a crocodile. The first thing that came to the tourist's mind was that the crocodile should be caught and used for their own gain. Of course, I don't approve of that. However, we're not interested in their commercial plan at all. Fact is that the travelers found 3 turtles inside the crocodile. The surprising thing is that 2 of them had no bite marks at all and moved quietly with their legs. Now, each of you will remember that crocodiles don't chew their prey before they swallow it. Look, learning new facts is certainly a good thing, except that I suggest we take it to the next level and find out who steals from us all the time. Well, I mean, often one can't find both socks. One goes missing somewhere. It's as if aliens are taking it away and erasing our memories so we'll never find them. At least that's what I used to think. But today the truth has been revealed, and I realize that pets may be to blame. For example, the US dog in this story ate 43 of her owner's socks. X-rays of her stomach look like it's full of smoke, but in reality, it's all nothing more than socks. Lots of socks. The owner of the Great Dane couldn't explain how so many socks got into her pet's stomach. The woman went to the vets after the dog hadn't eaten for days and was vomiting constantly. Fortunately for everyone, the surgery was quick, painless, and successful. Every last one of the socks was removed. We can only hope that the dog won't want to repeat the experiment. A shark inside a shark. We just saw the dog with socks. What could be more amazing? It turns out that there's such a thing. For example, here is the picture that a subscriber sent me. The guy claims he was fishing somewhere in the high seas, was pretty successful, small fish were biting, there were bigger catches, but then at one point something insanely big was biting. People prickled up their ears, harnessed their willpower, pulled the line, and pulled out a shark. Actually, not one, but two sharks. It turned out that it was the lower one, the one that was inside the other one, that took the bait. This is either some kind of mutant or the result of an unthinkable coincidence, or simply a fake and nothing more. Write in the comments, what do you think about this? Turtle Bank. Now I suggest we go to Bangkok and visit one of their national parks. One day, a local turtle had completely lost her appetite. She hardly moved around, didn't want to play with anyone. In general, she behaved in a completely unnatural way. The zoo workers, being the responsible guys they are, immediately discovered this problem and began checking on the turtle in every way possible. And now, imagine their face when they found as many as 915 coins of different denominations inside her, weighing a total of 11 pounds. The surgery to save the turtle, who thought she was some kind of bank, lasted for 7 hours, and the reptile was saved after all. No wonder the turtle was given the name Piggy Bank. According to vets, this was the first case they encountered in their medical practice. It's hard to imagine how the turtle could swallow so many coins. Besides, how could she find so many coins in the first place? I think it might have something to do with the zoo where the reptile lived. Tourists were constantly throwing coins into the water, and probably the turtle was quietly eating them. Piggy Bank, who suffered from her own greed, remained in the hospital for a week, after which she went back to the zoo. Nevertheless, it's impossible to call this story a good one. Soon the reptile still passed away due to intoxication, despite all the efforts of the vets. The next unusual incident took place in Australia, the home of all things unusual and obscure. A carpet python made its way into a residential building, slithered around it for a while, made sure that the owners were not in place, and began to do some crazy stuff. It began to eat a slipper that caught its eye. I can't even understand why the python found it delicious. It's just an ordinary slipper. With such an unusual object inside, the snake lived for several days. The owners didn't notice either the snake or the slipper. But one day, when they had guests, everything became clear. They were stunned when they saw the python with a slipper-like elongation inside its body. The reptile was immediately taken to a veterinary hospital in the suburbs. No matter how you look at it, the people needed the slipper. X-rays were taken, and afterwards, surgery was initiated to save the snake. Though it looked pretty difficult and incomprehensible, in fact, the surgery was easy and successful. The python was fine, it was unharmed, and it was doing fine a couple of days after the rescue. Has anyone seen my barbecue tongs? It was with these words that the story of the rescue of the python began, although at the time, people didn't yet understand it. Aaron Rouse had a pet snake. He loved it very much and never stinted it in food. However, that wasn't enough for the snake, and it decided to gobble up something unusual, barbecue tongs. Again, I have an important question. How did the snake even think of doing that? Barbecue tongs don't seem delicious at all. Anyway, one can't understand these creeping creatures. The python did what I told you and kept it a secret. It wasn't until a few hours later that the owner managed to notice barbecue tongs were missing. Aaron immediately went to a nearby animal rescue center and told the problem. According to one of the doctors, when he first heard the story, he didn't believe it to be true. The python looked too small, as if it couldn't physically swallow anything like that. Nevertheless, it was exactly as Aaron had told it. At first, the medical team was going to remove the barbecue tongs using endoscopy, but eventually, for fear of internal injuries, they removed the tongs during an abdominal surgery. Everything went well, and the owner of the snake promised to be more attentive to his pet in the future. I wonder if one of the snakes in the wild swallows some things, foreign object, which could be unrealistic to digest. It'll be doomed to death? Or do animals and Mother Nature have a scenario provided for such a case? Write in the comments if you know the answer to this question. Also, write in the comments what find inside animals surprised you the most. Thank you for watching, and see you later.